Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I am Stephanie Haney here. It is Wednesday, February 9th, here with your top stories, the stories that you are clicking on and reading on, the stories that matter most to you on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Coming to you a little bit earlier today because we're doing something special this afternoon for What's New, so make sure you tune into What's New tomorrow to see that. Let's get started with something just coming out. Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb is standing by his decision to deny waivers to stay open later to most of the establishments that asked for them in the Cleveland area. In fact, only 7 establishments that were all hotels got approved to serve alcohol until 4 a.m., something that institutions were able to do previously when the Republican National Convention was in town, when the Major League Baseball All-Star Game was in town. Not the case coming up for the NBA All-Star Weekend. That's February 18th through the 20th. Here is a statement from Justin Bibb. He says this is a different time from the RNC and the MLB All-Star Game. The pandemic has had a significant impact on the city and its public safety forces. He said, while we want people to enjoy themselves, we must lead by example and put safety first. Not extending the hours is the right decision and in the best interest of the residents of the city of Cleveland and our visitors. He says it's a decision to put the health and safety of our residents first. He knows that the past 2 years have been very difficult for businesses. He understands their frustration. He says he will continue to support them in their economic recovery along with the rest of the city, but this is just a different time. It is certainly a very different time, and the Cleveland Clinic has a new policy that is not working out well for one man. Mike Ganem was 5 days away from life-saving kidney transplant surgery, and then he got the devastating news that his surgery would not happen. This is because of a new Cleveland Clinic policy requiring COVID-19 vaccination for live donors and recipients of those organs. Now, Mike is vaccinated against COVID-19, but his donor is not, and it's been quite the journey for them. It was nearly 2 years ago when Mike learned from his doctor that his polycystic kidney disease was so far advanced that he needed to have a transplant. His doctor said they were past the point of dialysis. It was time for a transplant. So they turned to Facebook to try and find a donor. The post was shared so many times, and finally they did get a notification that they were a match. It's blood testing that's done to determine if you're a match. The match was Sue George, the daughter of a former third grade student of Mike's wife, Debbie. And that third grade student was Debbie's student about 13 years ago. They kept in touch over the years, and now the surgery, at least as they expected it to move forward, can't move forward. Sue George said that she was absolutely blindsided, that the doctors knew all along that she wasn't vaccinated. No one said it would be a problem, but that getting the vaccine now is not an option. She says he's got her reasons for it, those being medical, religious, and also freedom. Now, the Cleveland Clinic tells 3 News this policy is about the safety of the living donor in this instance, and that it is of their paramount concern to ensure that they do everything they can to make sure a living donor prior to surgery and after surgery does not contract COVID-19. Now, Debbie and Mike are hoping that this surgery can still move forward if they can perhaps have Sue George have that surgery, have her portion of the surgery at another hospital in Cleveland or Columbus that doesn't have that same policy. This is obviously a developing story. We'll keep you updated as we learn more information about that situation. Now we have some news yesterday out of Lyndhurst. Students at Charles F. Brush High School staged a walkout yesterday. It was about 40 to 50 students. These students staged this walkout because they say they believe their concerns about sexual harassment among students are not being heard by the administration. The organizer of the walkout, Lillian Anderson, says that she's scared. It's a place where they're supposed to feel safe, and administrators say this is their home away from home, but it doesn't feel like it. Now, what the school did, according to these students, is they've instituted an effort to reinforce the dress code policy after these complaints of sexual harassment between students came up. And the students told 3 News that 2 separate assemblies were held, one for male students and one for female students. They were hosted by a male administrator, and that what the female students said they heard in their assembly was that they needed to cover up, that they needed to abide by the school dress code policy, and that in this situation the boys were less mature, so they had to lead them down the right path. That's a quote from the students speaking with our 3 News' Carmen Blackwell. Now, according to the students, according to Lillian Anderson, she said that those students feel ignored by the school's administration, that there were a lot of tears, and that men need to be responsible for their decisions, and she thinks this kind of an approach is promoting rape culture. The school said that they do hear these concerns, and they're of the utmost concern. It is a developing situation. Again, if we have more information, we will bring that to you. Now, remember a couple weeks ago when that snowplow driver on the Ohio Turnpike ended up throwing snow into oncoming traffic? Well, that person has now been fired. This happened in Erie County, and the driver was Timothy Rake. So he has now been fired after throwing that snow into oncoming traffic. He was delivered that termination letter yesterday from the Ohio Turnpike and Infrastructure Commission from Farzan Ahmed, who's the executive director of that commission. The letter said that it was an egregious chargeable accident on January 23rd, that he engaged in grossly negligent behavior to endanger life, property, public safety, and otherwise cause the commission to be liable for damage. Now, according to the Ohio State Highway Patrol, 55 vehicles were damaged and 18 people were injured. Non-life-threatening injuries, of course, but lots of injuries. We did have that video up on WKYC.com. You have to check it out. It's really incredible to see the snowplow just shooting snow into lanes across the divider into oncoming traffic. Absolutely wild. Now, speaking of cars, if you have been in the market to buy a car lately, you know that the pickings are slim. I recently did need to purchase a used car, so I was able to do that after a lot of scouring. But here's something new that dealerships are doing that car manufacturers are not happy about. Dealerships are adding a surcharge. They're calling it a charge to account for the fact that there's just not enough supply out there. One of the places doing this is Nick Meyer Auto's Mayfield Heights location. Now, this isn't the only place doing this, but 3 News' Emma Henderson spoke with the people at Nick Meyer Auto's Mayfield Heights location. So you can see these fees, they range from a few $100s to maybe as much to $20,000 depending on the car. Now, General Motors and Ford are saying you have to stop this, that they don't want dealers to take advantage of price gouging. But the deal is that Nick Meyer from that auto shop, he says dealers don't seem to want to take advice of price gouging, but there's no inventory available, so they have to do something to keep the lights on. They have to do something to pay their employees. And so he said it's hard to sell cars if you don't have any in your showroom. Here's an example. Yesterday when Emma Henderson spoke to him, there were 6 cars on the lot. One of them had just been sold, and one of them was a luxury vehicle that was quite expensive, probably not affordable to the average person here in the Northeast Ohio area. So what his suggestion is if you need to buy a car, focus on cars that are more available and order months ahead when you actually might need that car. Here's what he said. He said Ford Escapes and EcoSports, they don't have to worry about those as much. But a limited vehicle right now, like a Ford Explorer, an F-150, Super Duties, Mustangs, those are very limited. They might see only one come through every 3 or 4 months right now. So plan ahead, maybe be flexible in the type of vehicle you're trying to buy, but do pay attention. Take a look at that sticker price because you can see those market adjustment fees. That's what they're being called. So you won't be charged it without you knowing, but you might be charged it. And if you have been watching the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing, last night was an absolute heartbreaker for Team USA's Michaela Schifrin. She was out of her race just seconds after starting it. Now, this is twice this week this has happened. First, it happened to her on the giant slalom. She skied off the track. And then the last night it happened to her on the 2-leg slalom. She skied off the track, and she said she's never been in this position before, and she doesn't know how to handle it. And it just feels like a really big letdown. Now, she's 26 years old. She's from Colorado. She won the slalom at the 2014 Sochi Games and the giant slalom at the 2018 Pyeongchang Games. So she said she was pushing. Maybe she was pushing past her limit as she was sort of trying to grapple with what could have possibly happened for her to go so far off her game so quickly in those 2 back-to-back events. Now, she had planned to enter all 5 individual races at the Alpine Skiing Center. If she wins gold in this Olympics, that would make her only the 2nd woman to win at least 1 gold medal from the alpine skiing events at 3 Olympics in a row. So obviously, very, very big deal there. Lots of pressure. So far, she's 0 for 2. She might compete again on Friday in the Super G, although she kind of suggested that maybe she might not because she said that the team does have the competitors to do well in that event. And she says if she's going to ski off the track, what's the point in going, sounding a little bit defeated there. And she said she's also never competed in a Super G at the Olympics, but she did win the Super G at the 2019 World Champion. So obviously this is a high caliber athlete. There's something going on here with what's happening with her skiing off these tracks, and she's trying to figure out what's happening. She's got a couple of days to sort of wrap her mind around it and decide whether she's going to compete in that Super G event. She said she's also open about the fact that it's been hard to deal about the accidental death of her father that happened in February of 2020. And she said right now she'd really like to call him doesn't make it easier. And then she sort of laughed and she said he would probably tell her just to get over it, but she said he's not here to say that. So on top of everything else, she's a little bit mad at him. She said that, in a joking way. So we're thinking of Michaela Schifrin. Excuse me, I did not pronounce her last name properly. Michaela Schifrin right now. Look forward to seeing what she does. And if you watch the snowboard halfpipe, it was a rocky road for Shaun White to begin with, but he fell. A lot of those guys fell. There were a lot of falls in the men's qualifying rounds for the halfpipe snowboarding last night. But in the end, 3 Team USA members did qualify. Chloe Kim on the women's team had an amazing performance, so we're going to see some Team USA in the finals in the snowboard halfpipe, both for men and women. Now, if you have been watching the Olympics and you're wondering why the athletes are getting pandas instead of medals, don't worry, they will get their medals too, but those come later at an official ceremony. But they get these pandas. It's the mascot of the 2022 Winter Olympics. The panda's name is Bing Duen Duend, and it's the panda mascot of the games. And this is something that's been going on for several years. So the winners are handed that sort of right away after they finish their event. And Bing actually means ice in Chinese. It's got a golden wreath on it. It's absolutely adorable. We also saw this at the Pyeongchang Games 4 years ago. So immediately after winning gold, silver, or bronze at the Pyeongchang Games, those medalists got Su Harang, which was a striped white tiger, and that was the mascot for those games. So just another fun little addition to the people competing at the Olympics. Speaking of people competing, the 2022 NBA All-Star Game is coming to Cleveland very soon. It's February 18th through the 20th. That'll be at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse on the 20th, the All-Star Game. But the Celebrity Game is happening at the Wolstein Center. That's on Friday, February 18th, and we now know who will be playing in the Celebrity Game. So headlining that game will be Cleveland Browns All-Pro defensive end Myles Garrett, Cleveland native and rapper Machine Gun Kelly, actor and comedian Tiffany Haddish, rappers Jack Harlow and Quavo, Cleveland Mayor Justin Bibb, and a pair of Cleveland Cavalier legends Anderson Varejao and Daniel Boobie Gibson. The full rosters, by the way, are up on WKYC.com. The teams will be coached by NBA legends Bill Walton and Dominique Williams. That game will air on ESPN at 7 p.m. It starts off with the Ruffles Ridge 4-point shooting competition, and that's where Ruffles and the NBA will donate $4,000 to support the Thurgood Marshall College Fund for every shot made from behind the line. Minimum donation there of $40,000. So that will be a great show. Again, if you're lucky enough, you can get a ticket to that at the Wolstein Center, but you can also watch it on ESPN at 7 p.m. Speaking of big stars in Cleveland, Eminem has taken an early lead in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame fan ballot. They've got more than 1 million votes so far for the 2022 induction, and he is number 1 so far with more than 152,000 votes. Here's the rest of the top 5. Number 2, Duran Duran. Pat Benatar is number 3. Dolly Parton with 103,000 votes is number 4. And the Eurythmics at almost 80,000 votes are number 5. So if your favorite from the 17 people who are nominated for induction is not in the top 5, you can cast your ballot at the link at WKYC.com. Remember, the 5 artists with the top votes will be on a fan ballot, and that'll factor in with the other ballots to determine who the 2022 inductees are, and those final inductees will be announced in May. The induction will be held in the fall, but right now this voting is open through April 29th. So get your votes in for your favorite person. And something else that's coming here to Cleveland very soon is Les Miserables is relaunching its North American tour, and it's doing it at Playhouse Square. They announced that they will be launching it in October here in Cleveland. It's part of the 2022-2023 KeyBank Broadway series at Playhouse Square. It'll play more than 60 week-long and multi-week engagements through the next 2 years and beyond, and it's starting right here in Cleveland. That complete tour schedule and casting will be announced later. Before I let you go here, I need to remind you that today is Wednesday, so that means it's time for your good news break. You can find that on the WKYC YouTube page. Since Valentine's Day is on Monday, this is our unofficial Valentine's Day episode. Lots of love stories. We have a story of Olympic love in there. Also, a story about puppy love and something about the Cupid Shuffle. That's just a couple of the stories. This is guaranteed to make you smile, so make sure you check that out. If you're not already subscribed to the WKYC YouTube page or have downloaded the WKYC app with those push notifications turned on, make sure you do that, because that's how you'll make sure to get notified when your It's All Good news break comes through every Wednesday at 1 p.m. All right, that's it for your 3 News Now update today for Wednesday, February 9th. I will see you all back here tomorrow with more 3 News Now.